So we made it to the end of another week, and that can only mean one thing. We are back for our weekly championship score predictions. Let's jump into them. Guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. As always, very excited to jump into this weekend's action. We've got quite a few tasty encounters coming up, which I'm interested to see which way you guys are going for. Before we jump into anything though, a big thank you to Sky Bet EFL Rewards for going ahead and sponsoring today's prediction video. If you've not checked out the app already, make sure to get yourself in the description down below where you'll find a link to the app. You can do loads of cool stuff over on there. You can check yourself in at match days and get rewarded for literally just supporting your club. During December as well, they are offering a whole host of cool prizes to be won. Things like the cost of a season ticket, FM22 codes, Puma, EFL match balls and more. All you have to do is play the predictor game over on the app. So go ahead and go across the fixtures, select win or draw, and then you'll be in with a chance of winning one of the cool prizes. So Sky Bet EFL Rewards, click the link in the description down below and get yourself involved. The best thing about it is it's free as well, so there's no reason not to. But thanks very much to Sky Bet EFL Rewards for going ahead and sponsoring today's video, and without any further ado, let's jump on with the rest of the video. And just before we hop into anything, let's take a look at the updated Prediction League standings after last weekend's action. I'm just consolidating my place really at the moment in 6th place, not all too far off that number 1 spot. I had a relatively decent game week, picking up 9 points, but Zach Flanagan having an absolutely massive game week, storming up the league with 12 points. He goes into 2nd, 1 place behind Reece McGrath, who maintains his number 1 spot for the time being. In League 1, it's Harry Freeman who goes to the top of League 1 with a decent game week, picking up 7 points as always. Very close between the top and bottom of League 1 there. I can see Lexus at the bottom of League 1 at the moment. And then this is how League 2 is currently shaping up. And once again, some decent scorelines in here. I think that anyone that's getting into, double figures or close to it can say they've had a decent game week, so fair play. Without any further ado though, let's hop into these matches. And so starting out with the Saturday lunchtime kickoff, we got Huddersfield going up against Coventry. This game's come at an interesting point of the season. Coventry, having just dropped out of the top 6, will be looking to get back to winning ways, but both of them find themselves on a bit of a tough run at the moment. Huddersfield without a win in their last 3 matches. Performance levels certainly, I think we have seen a bit of a dip from Huddersfield recently. We always go back to their home form, but did lose last time at home, and then they had that quite unhelpful 1-1 draw with Barnsley last time around where they didn't look great. When it comes to Coventry, they've been a tough side to put your finger on, whereby we've seen decent spells from Coventry recently. Like, they played well for like a half, but we've not really seen that over a full 90 minutes recently, as was the case last time out against West Brom. They were just caught cold in the first half really and grew into it as the game went on. So what we need to see is a performance from Coventry from start to finish really. Their away record isn't great and Huddersfield's home record is decent. In that aspect, I wouldn't be surprised at a draw, but I've just got a feeling that Coventry are going to get back to winning ways in this one. Could be proven wrong and Huddersfield could snatch it with a set piece or two, but I'm going to back the away side and go with my gut. I'm going to go 2-1 Coventry. FIFA's going 2-1 Huddersfield. Next up then, and to St Andrews, it's Birmingham going up against Cardiff, and this game really does seem like it is a flip of a coin. Wouldn't be at all surprised to see a lot of people predicting draws for this one. It's two fairly inconsistent sides coming up against each other. Birmingham in their last 6 matches, 2 wins, 3 losses and a draw. Cardiff in their last 6 have had 3 wins, 3 losses, so really up and down for both sides recently. In fairness to Cardiff, their record on the road since Morrison has come in has been fairly decent. They've been scoring goals, 7 in their last 3 away matches. Obviously, last time I didn't quite go their way against Sheffield United, but they had that red card to Sean Morrison, who will be missing in action for this one. Ryan Woods will also be serving, I think, his final game of suspension after he picked up that red card against Coventry. So couple players missing from this one. I think I'm just edging ever so slightly towards Cardiff. I didn't think that Birmingham looked the best last time out against Millwall. I thought they've got a little bit overrun in midfield, and maybe with Woods still not back in this one, the same might happen again, although they do have those threats going forward. Deeney scored that brilliant goal last time out, didn't he? FIFA's going 1-0 Birmingham, so I'll go the other way. I'll go 2-1 Cardiff, but yeah, that one really is the flip of a coin, isn't it? Next up then we go to Bournemouth up against Blackburn. Now this one has the potential to be really quite a good game of football actually, and anything could happen in this game, I think, and I wouldn't be at all surprised. If Blackburn managed to nick a result, I wouldn't be surprised, but equally to that, if Bournemouth put like 5 goals past them, I'm also not going to come out of this one shocked, to be honest with you. I was at Ewood Park last weekend for Preston up against Blackburn, and while Blackburn didn't look great, I don't think the conditions particularly helped them on that occasion, but once again it showed that they only need 1 or 2 semi-decent chances and this Blackburn side is going to carry on scoring goals. It was Ben Burton again at the weekend, obviously coming up against the Bournemouth side who are without a win in their last few matches, albeit I did think it was a decent performance last time out against a very good Fulham side. The quality on show in that game was absolutely superb, and the goal they scored from kickoff was absolutely brilliant as well. But I have a feeling that Bournemouth may get back to winning ways in this one. I feel like a win's been long overdue for them, but Blackburn, you know, we know like to sit in and break on those counters, will have their threats in this one. But I am going to back Bournemouth for this one. I'm going to go 3-1 Bournemouth, with FIFA going for a 1-1 draw. That game really might tell us if Blackburn are like the real deal for the top 6 this season. Next then to Derby up against Blackpool, and another game where two sides are quite out of form at the moment really. Blackpool without a win now in their last 6 matches, and the problem for them recently has been hitting the back of the net. They've only scored 2 goals in their last 6. Last time out against Luton, things really didn't go their way. Seemed to be a decent start for them, but as soon as that first mistake was made at the back, maybe the argument that Chris Maxwell was brought in a little bit too soon after his injury, but that's one that which will be debated, I'm sure. Yeah, after that first goal, the game just seemed to get away from them really. Going up against the Derby side, who they themselves have had a bit of a slide off recently. They've not fared all too much better than Blackpool in their last 6, just 1 win in their last 6 matches, albeit there have been some pretty tough matches for Derby sprinkled in there recently. It's 2 fairly low scoring sides recently in terms of shots per 90. Both these teams are on the lower end of the Championship at the moment, and I wouldn't be at all surprised to see this one finishing as a 0-0 draw, although we have seen Blackpool pick up a few results on the road so far this season. I'm going to go 1-0 Derby in this game, I think, but every time I seem to back Derby, they always end up throwing it in my face and it never pays off. But I'm going to go 1-0 Derby. FIFA's going 2-0 Derby. I fancy a low score in that one that could go either way. Next then to Hull up against Bristol City. A win for Hull in this one will put them just 1 point behind Bristol City and leave them with some real breathing space between themselves and the bottom 3, which, to be fair to them, they have established quite a bit of in recent weeks. 4 wins from Hull's last 5 matches, unbeaten in their last 5. Bit of fortune maybe went their way last time in that 1-0 draw with Reading, but a decent point on the road nonetheless. Malik Wilkes getting on the score sheet in that one, and their home form has certainly picked up recently. Bristol City have been such a tough side to put your finger on the flip side of that, because I mean, at the start of the season, we were all bashing their home form, but saying, oh, on the road they can do something. Well, that's completely flipped as of recent weeks. Bristol City on the road lately haven't looked all too good, but at home have been picking up results. They've lost their last 4 away matches, having conceded 11 goals in the process. Even, to be fair, some of the results they picked up at home, I think, have been more a case of them grinding out the games, more so than a complete sort of performance over 90 minutes. But I'm sure Bristol City fans are just happy to see the wins rolling in finally at Ashton Gate. But on the road, I think they could still have their troubles in this one. I'm going to go 2-1 Hull, with FIFA going 2-0 Bristol City. Next then we go to Luton up against Fulham. Luton with a much needed result last time round. Good 3-0 win away at Bloomfield Road. Back at home at Kenilworth Road for this one, and going to be quite the test against a very decent looking Fulham side, obviously top of the league for a reason. They have had a bit of a slide off in terms of their results recently, but like I was saying with Bournemouth before, I fancy both the top 2 to get back to winning ways sooner rather than later. And I don't think this sort of accumulation of draws that Fulham have had recently is going to continue for all too long, and Luton are exactly the sort of side that will win 3-0 one week and then follow it up with a 3-0 defeat the following week, and I can't help but feel like that may be the case in this one. Fulham have got so much firepower going forward, and maybe have a few regrets after that Bournemouth game, with the amount of chances that they accumulated to give the goal to Bournemouth in the way they did, just kicking off for the second half. I feel like Fulham are just going to click back up into gear in this one. I'm going to go 3-0 Fulham FIFA's going for a 1-1 draw. With Luton this season, things could go anywhere and I wouldn't be surprised at all. Next up we then go to Peterborough up against Millwall, and a game where I don't think a draw suits either side here. Peterborough are currently 5 points away from safety and Millwall only 4 points off the top 6, so a win I think is a must for both sides in this one if they want to go ahead and achieve what we've laid out there. In terms of Millwall, I thought it was arguably their best performance of the season last time out against Birmingham. The way we generally tend to speak about Millwall is we expect quite a resilient performance, not all too many shots on goal and goal mouth action, but in the Birmingham game I thought they looked quite good in the final third actually, and I hope that that trend continues for Millwall and that they don't just sort of revert to type in this one. In terms of Peterborough, pretty disappointing once again last time out. We like to mention obviously on the road so far this season they've been next to hopeless, but the majority of their points coming at home so far this season, but even their home form has started to dry up recently. They've only scored 1 goal in their last 3 matches. I do think they will have spells where they are on top in this game and Millwall will be forced to defend, but it's Millwall who I fancy to come out on top ultimately after the whistle's blown in this one. I'm going to go 2-0 Millwall and fancy Gary Rowett's side to continue the playoff charge. FIFA's going to agree with me for that one as well, but yeah, Peterborough desperately need a win here, don't they? Next then we go to D-Del. It's Preston going up against Barnsley. Ryan Lowe's first game in charge of North End and seemingly a decent opportunity to get off to a winning start. Barnsley, the only championship side yet to win away from home so far this season. They themselves, I wouldn't say they've had a new manager bounce, more maybe a new manager pop recently. They've had 2 draws, which is a slight improvement from what we've seen of them recently. Albeit I thought they got a little bit lucky in that game against Peterborough, but we did see a bit more from them in that game against Huddersfield. I just have a feeling that Preston are going to be right up for this one. Even under Frankie McAvoy, our home record hasn't been disastrous so far this season. We've only lost a couple of games at Deepdale, and you'd think that the crowd is going to be right up for this one, behind Ryan Lowe being his first game in charge. Very interested to see what tweaks he's already made to the side. He had the squad in their day off this week because he wanted to implement some of his ideas and get a bit more sort of face-to-face time with the players this week, and seemingly everyone seems a bit upbeat and really up for the challenge for the rest of the season at the club now. So for a score prediction, I'm going to back the boys. I'm going to go 2-0 Preston in this one, with FIFA going for a 1-1 draw. Next up then, and to another one of the games which I'm really looking forward to seeing the outcome of this weekend. It's Stoke going up against Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough currently find themselves 5 points behind Stoke, who are currently occupying that 6th place, and you can't help but feel like if Borough get a result in this one, then it's properly like game on for the playoffs. If it ends as a draw, then it's sort of as you were continuing into next week, and if Stoke get the win, then they start to consolidate that place once again in the top 6. Stoke got a really good win last time out, I thought, against QPR. Scored some really nice goals in that one. Vrancic, pulling the strings of them from midfield, and it came at quite a crucial time really, because they had those 2 back-to-back defeats. It felt as if they were starting to trend downwards and that those injuries had, finally caught up with them. But yeah, great result against quite a tough QPR side. Middlesbrough though, I do think have looked good on the whole against under Chris Wilder lately. They've won their last couple of matches, and even in the matches that they've dropped points in, performance levels have still looked generally quite good actually. It's been night and day really in terms of performances if we're comparing Middlesbrough now to the start of the season under Warnock. But I'm going to be boring for this one, I think, and say it's going to finish as a 1-1 draw. FIFA's gone 1-0 Borough. Yeah, if Middlesbrough win that game, then the top 6 push is seriously on for them, I think. Next up then we go to Liberty. It's Swansea going up against Nottingham Forest. Steve Cooper's return to Swansea in this one should be quite the interesting game. Both sides sat next to each other in the table at the moment, so there's not all too much to separate them. A win would theoretically take either of them into the top half, where I think it's a realistic finish that either of these sides will have the aspirations of going ahead and finishing in the top half. Steve Cooper's kept things incredibly tight since coming in as the Forest manager. Just 1 loss in the 13 matches that he's been in charge of so far. Seriously impressive, especially considering where he took over and the sort of state of affairs that Forest were in earlier under Sheff Utd. Last time out for Swansea was a bit of a disappointing one as they lost to Middlesbrough. Definitely had chances in that game though, particularly in the second half. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see this one ending as a draw. I think that's what I am edging towards in this game. Maybe a Steve Cooper special 0-0 wouldn't surprise me, but I'm going to go but a couple goals in this one. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Next up then we go to the Hawthorns. It's West Brom going up against Reading. Now West Brom are going to look to finally establish a little bit of consistency. They have set themselves a decent platform to build off the back of last week's result. First half against Coventry especially, I thought the West Brom looked quite good for that game, albeit there was, a little bit of fortune with that second goal and being given, coming off Kipru's hand and things like that. But overall, much better showing from West Brom in that first half against Coventry. They got the press spot on and they were creating better quality chances than what we've seen them doing recently. Reading, to be fair to them, have been a tough side to crack, and they've only lost 1 of their last 5 matches. Their most recent game being a 1-0 draw with Hull, where a couple of key decisions, I think it's fair to say, went against them in that game, and they'll have probably been ruined those decisions that they didn't go ahead and pick up all 3 points in the end. You can't help but feel like this is the moment, though, that West Brom finally establish a bit of consistency, and on the back of that reasoning, I think I'm going to back West Brom for this one. I'm going to go 2-0 West Brom, whereas FIFA's going 1-0 Reading. And then as our last game to go over, we are heading to Bramall Lane. It's Sheffield United going up against QPR. Now this is going to be really the test for Sheffield United and Paul Heckingbottom here, because they're on a good run of form at the moment, and in terms of performance levels, undoubtedly we've seen quite the dramatic rise from them recently. They're coming off the back of 3 consecutive wins. They had that win against Reading, that dominant performance against Bristol City, and then the good showing against Cardiff when they put 3 goals past them. Albeit, if we look into the circumstances of those 3 sides, this is, I think, their first proper test since they've had this upturn in form against a QPR side who has been mixing in and around the top 6 all season so far. QPR had quite the disappointing result last time out. They lost 2-0 to Stoke, albeit they had the chances to get something from that game. The Charlie Austin penalty, plenty of other chances created from open play and things like that, and I hope that this is going to be quite the open and expansive game of football. Certainly from what we've been seeing from Sheffield United recently, they're having plenty more chances in and around the box. Morgan Gibbs-White has been absolutely terrific, like he has been for the majority of the season, but now that everyone else seems to be getting up to his level, he's shining even more. And for a score prediction in this one, I think I'm edging towards Sheff United. Both sides have got the feeling of inconsistency about them, and that's the beauty of this sort of game, because it really could swing either way. But I'm just going to edge the home side for a 2-1. FIFA's gone for a 0-0. Got a feeling that one's going to be a good game this weekend. But guys, there we have it. Those are my championship score predictions for the upcoming action this weekend. As always, make sure to go ahead and get yourselves in the comments down below. Leave your score predictions and go ahead and enter yourself onto the prediction leaderboard. Loads of fun on there at the moment, and you can see both at the top of the main league and the bottom of League 2, it's so tight in there. You just need a good game week and you'll absolutely fly up the league. But apart from that, guys, thank you very much for watching. Make sure to stick around and subscribe for some regular championship content, and I'll see you all in the next one.